Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of the Pitch Start podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP, and welcome back again. Remember to like, share, comment on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and enable notifications to receive all the updates of this podcast and the other videos on this channel. Follow us on social media at SidePSP on Twitter, PitchSidePod on Instagram, and follow the Spotify podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you can get it from. And let's get into it. I decided, of course, since we did the preview episode yesterday on Friday, I decided to change the topic a little bit, change the thematic a little bit. We're going to be talking about something general, really. It's a question, if you've seen the thumbnail and the title, of course, that is the question we're going to be answering about, or trying to answer. Which league is more competitive this season, since we are in December, halfway through the season. I mean, although it started late in most leagues, like started around October, really kicked off, and now December seems like a hectic schedule, hectic month where everything's going to be played. You know, the Christmas fixtures are going to be coming in Europe, and there's going to be some lot of football to talk about. But since it is, again, quote unquote, halfway through the season, we have to ask ourselves, which is the most competitive league of them all? Like, the top 5 leagues in the world, like, even the French league, which for a lot of reasons I don't want to talk about here on this channel, really. I'm not that interested into. It's surprisingly competitive league at the moment. For a change, really, Paris Saint-Germain are not top of the table in Ligue 1, which really fills me with a lot of hope. Maybe I would care about this league when a change happens, and probably the change will happen this season. Like, at least give us a title race in France. Like, not to say, like, if PSG, work hard and fatigue themselves and win the league, it's fine. But if they just walk through the park and do it again, that would be really boring. Anyway. All the arguments probably would turn to the Premier League at the moment, considering last season, how Liverpool pretty much escaped with the title away, really, putting, every team behind them on the table, 23 points ahead of the closest rival, ahead of Manchester City. It really was horrible for the other clubs watching Liverpool just escape away with the title, like having a 28 games undefeated run, 27 victories of them, and just want to draw. Like, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer last season at a certain point seemed like a saviour, because if he could get 2 points out of Liverpool, at certain points Liverpool were destined to go unbeaten and to do the unthinkable and go invincible for the whole season, but they couldn't do it. Unfortunately, they fell off in the last moments. But I mean, after crashing out of the Champions League, it all went not downhill, but it went really in a little bit of a bad way, and that form carried on to the start of this season. Liverpool, don't let the top of the table spot mislead you, really. Liverpool are not 100%. They're not bad. They're around 70-80% of what they were this stage last season, because this stage last season they were leading the table by around 45 to 50 points, and they were really, putting all sorts of great performance. I think around this time of year also defeated Leicester 4-0 in King Power Stadium, so it really, and they were, winning the FIFA Club World Cup, which is going to be taking place in February of next year. So there's a lot of arguments here to say that the Premier League is the most competitive of them all, considering not just the fact that the table is not that far away, because there's only 3 points for Liverpool as an advantage over the other sides, but also you think of who are on the table, who are in the top of the table. There's Liverpool, Tottenham, Southampton, Leicester City at the moment, Everton at 5th, Man United, Chelsea, West Ham, Man City, and Wolves are the top 10 of that table, and there's only 8 points between all of these clubs, which is, I think, I don't know, it is a testament for competitiveness, but I think also a testament for how bad some of these teams have been throughout the season. I think Everton had a good start, then dipped in form. Man United are terrible already. I mean, I think everybody knows really that. Chelsea, for some reason, they seem like there's still something missing about them, despite the fact that they bought a lot of players. The money they spent in the transfer window, they're still lacking something. Something is still off about them. Manchester City and the Guardiola this season are just something else completely. They're different. They're lifeless, lacking of any spark, lacking of any imagination, any creativity. So if you look at the table of the Premier League, you'll say, yes, the Premier League is the most competitive. Clearly, you're going to get the biggest race there. But that's an argument. I mean, the argument is anything better than last season for the Premier League. Because the standards of the Premier League are competitiveness in all departments, like the relegation, European spots, title, of course. Last season felt like an anomaly, pretty much. Like the last couple of seasons also felt like an anomaly, because even the title race the season before that, which was between Liverpool and Manchester City, has been so, like, there's been a very, very big of a gap between those two sides and the other clubs that it almost not considered a race, really. This season, it might be a two-horse race. I mean, it might be really about Liverpool and Tottenham. We don't know about the other sides. We're still too early to definitely judge Chelsea's credential, or Man City credentials, or even Man United credentials, despite all of the inconsistencies of those three sides. But we still don't know what could happen in the future. So as far as the Premier League is concerned, I would say it definitely, will be competitive. It definitely will be very hard to predict, but most certainly that is down to a lot of inconsistency from the other sides rather than an actual competitive spirit. And I know this opinion might be weird, but again, it's still too early. Definitely relatively where we should be this time of the season in normal situation. We would be halfway through, would be around 19, 20, like really judging the sides after the Boxing Day and the New Year's fixtures, which are thick and fast and coming back to back. But this season and this year, 2020, has been different, so we can all judge them on the same metric. No fans really to test how the home and away form differs, really, although, some pundits still consider it important. The fact, yes, fans returned partially to some stadiums, but for the most part, it's still no fans football, so it won't matter if there is, fans or not, and the home and away form will not really matter in any way. But also, you have to give an argument for the other leagues. You have to give an argument for Serie A in particular, Serie A and Bundesliga in particular. We're going to get to Laliga in a little bit, but I think Serie A and the Bundesliga in particular deserve some serious recognition this season, because Serie A is led now by Milan, or it is led by AC Milan, Inter Milan are second, Juventus are third, and Roma are fourth with 24 points, Napoli are fifth, 23, and Sassuolo 23 points. So the top six of the Serie A at the moment are condensed in 5 points. There's only 5 points difference between those. And I'm not necessarily saying that, for example, Sassuolo would give the others a run for their money, although, football is unpredictable. At times it could happen. They could give them a good run. They could get a European spot this season. I hope for them that they do so, because they're really an interesting side and I love to watch them. Everybody's looking at AC Milan now. And AC Milan, I think, really sort of returned the prestige of the Serie A a little bit after 9 or 8 seasons where it seemed like, okay, we know what's happening. Juventus are going to be winning the title, and that is certainly what's going to happen. Now it's different. Now the Serie A is led by a different team. In AC Milan, they're going to be winning the title. I'm not so sure. Even the Milan fans, some of them at least, are very, very skeptical over the idea that Milan would win the title. But I would say it is possible. It is doable if they keep the form. If they avoid injuries. But apparently they cannot really avoid injuries at the moment. They have a bunch of those on the side, and crucial ones as well, like not just any kind of injuries, crucial ones: Simon Kjaer, Ismail Ben Nasser, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Gabby and others. Look, like AC Milan now are I mean, they're so strongly favourites to win the title at the moment, in spite of themselves, that it's almost going to feel like a disappointment if they come second, which in the first place wasn't their project, wasn't their ambition. Their ambition was to be back to the Champions League, to be back to European football properly from the place where they most cherish. I mean, a side that has 7 Champions Leagues playing consistently in the Europa League isn't something exactly welcome. They missed European football actually for a couple of seasons in a row. So returning to the Champions League will be their prime objective, as well as, trying to do the best, finish they can in the league, really, to get that Champions League spot. Like, they can, for example, finish barely at 4th and just accept that, considering the fact that they are undefeated at the moment and they are top of the table. They won't accept it. Also, the other side, you can stake a claim for them. Juventus, of course, are still favourites. Yes, they won 9 in a row, but they're still favourites. I don't see, Juventus necessarily, collapsing to lose the title, but it will be, I think if they're going to lose it, it's going to be just about the team that's going to be edging them, probably in head-to-head competition, maybe one of the Milan sides, AC Milan or Inter. Either side is going to be edging Juventus in head-to-head competition and going to be better than Juventus this season, is probably going to be winning the title. I would say look over your shoulders from Roma. They're creeping in. Some people are dismissing that, but I think Ace Roma really creeping in on the top spots. Make sure that you really stay alert, and especially Roma, Napoli are having some enjoyable football, playing some really exciting football. But for some reason, I think, judging on that, they are in a worse place than where they should have been, really. I would say they should have been in pole position to compete with AC Milan. I thought they should have been second, really. Inter are not doing it for me. Juventus are not convincing. They're really unimpressive. Atalanta are way off the mark this season. Who else? I think Napoli, AC Milan is probably the two head race that I want to watch the most. But again, every other team has the right to compete. Juventus, still the 9-time back-to-back winners. AS Roma again creeping. Sassuolo might be a possible surprise, and if Atalanta is coming back, it should be now, because there are 10 points at the top. The best they would do is probably get a Champions League spot. That's about it. Also, shout out to the Champions League, to the Bundesliga. Sorry. The Bundesliga this season also has impressed me quite a lot, and as a Bayern fan, it is doubly impressive for me that the Bundesliga this season is at least giving me that good kind of stress, where you want to see your team motivated in the local league. Because Bayern Munich, for example, Bayern Munich's motto has all about been competing in the Champions League, because they know, and they knew for some time, that the Bundesliga is a done and dusted deal for them. By February, at the very best, they would settle the deal in the Bundesliga, get the point difference that they would need, and just focus on the knockout stages of the Champions League, because mostly they would be there by February. And for the last 3 to 4 seasons before this one, the disappointment in the Champions League cannot be overtaken by the fact that they win Bundesliga, or they win a double, which they won like 3 out of the last 4 doubles possible. Also, the fact is, the Bundesliga this season is offering quite the exciting, and it probably has benefited from the fact that Bayern Munich are champions of Europe, so everybody's going to be focusing on them and what they do in the league, and that has brought very, very good measure of interest in the Bundesliga, which probably motivated the teams to do really, really well. I'm impressed with a lot of sides in the Bundesliga this season. Definitely impressed with Bayer Leverkusen, leading the table at the moment before the big clash today on Saturday against Bayern Munich. Very impressed with RB Leipzig. I'm impressed with them since like 3 seasons ago, since they made it to the Champions League for the first time. Impressed with their play. I'm impressed with Wolfsburg this season. I'm impressed with Union Berlin this season. I'm impressed with Stuttgart this season. And Stuttgart, like in particular, a couple of seasons ago, they were just saving themselves, barely scrapping, maintaining position in the Bundesliga, and now they are playing at 7th. They're not far from European spots. They could get it this season. They have a crop of players that are really good. Silas Wamangituka probably might be the most underrated striker at the moment in the Bundesliga. I mean, he's one of the rising stars of that league, really, and he deserves, I think, some recognition along his whole card. So the Bundesliga also has, 5 or 6 teams that are so impressive. And probably people misunderstand the competitiveness of the Bundesliga. Like, the Bundesliga's competitiveness doesn't come in the form of, who's going to be winning the title. At least not this season. At least the seasons should be different. It should be different, really, depending on what is going to happen between Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern Munich. I think this season should be really, really different in Germany. So, again, I'm impressed with 5 or 6 sides this season that are really good in the Bundesliga. The competitiveness of that league probably comes with the fact that all the clubs in it are willing and ready to play the most enjoyable football there is. Like, there's not really a side of the Bundesliga you could go and look at and say, oh, they like to play defensive. Unlike some sides in the Premier League, for example, like some sides in Laliga, like some sides in Serie A, in the Bundesliga, necessarily no one does like to play defensive. No team does to play defensive. Even the minors in the Bundesliga. Arminia Bielefeld does not want to play defensive. I mean, probably the fact is, the evidence is that they conceded 23 goals already. But again, that's why I love the Bundesliga. Really, that's why I think the Bundesliga has always been underrated of sorts. I mean, the tagline Farmers League cannot really be associated with sides that make it into knockout stages of the Champions League and the Europa League every year. While how many French sides do make it into those knockout rounds in the Champions League or the Europa League? Only PSG. And the last time a French side other than PSG did it, it was Monaco. And that's about it. Like, it was Monaco, and they got the semi-final with their golden generation, which I think probably should have stayed at Monaco a little bit longer. But again, that's what I love the Bundesliga. That's what I say. Probably the Bundesliga is a lot above Ligue 1 when it comes probably to the ranking, I think. Probably this season, hopefully, it will be more competitive than else. For La Liga, I mean, I don't see an argument really for them. And I know I put it in the conversation, put it in the thumbnail really, but I don't see an argument for them, because even at the moment you look at the table and say, okay, Real Sociedad are joint top, but first of all, put 2-3 asterisks besides that top of the table position. First of all, they have 3 matches more than Atletico Madrid. Second, they are 1 match more than the likes of Real Madrid and Villarreal, 2 matches more than Barcelona, 3 matches more than Sevilla. So there's a whole bunch of clubs that are close to them on the table, and they have 3 or 2 matches in hand. So this position could change drastically by the end of the year. By February next year, probably we're going to see us in 5th or 6th. So this is not permanent. It may be permanent, who knows? Maybe we're going to be surprised. I mean, Real Sociedad are playing good football, really. They showed that time and time again this season. They held Real Madrid to a draw. They really put Barcelona in danger. And losing against this Barcelona side might be a disappointment for Sociedad. They might want to look over that. But that is what I think will happen, really. Real Sociedad are going to be probably dragging themselves back to 5th or 6th in the table somehow. Real Madrid, Barcelona and Villarreal are going to be ending up competing for the title, although I want to dismiss Barcelona, really. I regret saying that statement just now. I think I'm going to dismiss Barcelona. I'm going to take them out of that competition. Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, that's your title race for the season in La Liga. Maybe we see an outsider horse. I mean, one of Sociedad and Villarreal should be really an outsider. Although even last season I thought it wasn't that competitive. I thought it was the level between Real Madrid and Barcelona, at least on the surface, is too far from the other clubs who keep being inconsistent, keep tripping over themselves. I thought Sevilla, for all I care, should have been in a higher position, should have probably won the league altogether, because they played better football than both those sides, either Real Madrid and Barcelona, at certain points of the season. So I'm putting La Liga, in the conversation, but if I want to rank them, if we're gonna wrap up now this episode and rank these leagues, Of course, I would put Premier League on the top. Definitely. I mean, it's just common knowledge by now as it goes. But with that, the Premier League is the most competitive league in the world at the moment at any stage, and now with the title race in the top table really shaken to be and shaping to be very, very good and very, very interesting, I think this argument even stands stronger even more now. Premier League on top, I'd probably put Serie A second. Really, I'm enjoying watching the race in Serie A. I mean, I reconsidered that really after this week's action, after last week's action, sorry, of Serie A in the midweek. I really reconsidered that because I almost put Bundesliga second to the Premier League, but then I rethought it because Serie A is just incredible at the moment. This is going to be a heck of a race in Italy. There, I would put Bundesliga third. Laliga fourth, although probably the fact that Liga also is interesting at the moment, I would put it just above Laliga until we see, of course, what is going to happen. Probably this ranking will change by next year, by February next year. We'll probably be talking about certain other ranking. Maybe Bayern Munich are going to be just revolting from the dead like they usually do and just settle the Bundesliga for good before the round of 16 of the Champions League. Who knows? That's all for this episode. I mean, I tried to keep it short and sweet. Don't want to annoy people. I know the last couple of episodes were really long and, passing 40 minutes and what have you. Like, share, comment on the video who you think is the most competitive league this season. I mean, even if you are a league outside, really comment it. I respect all the leagues, really. I just don't seem interested in Liga at the moment. Subscribe to the channel, of course, enable notifications to receive the updates of this podcast and other videos on this channel. Follow us on social media at SidePSP, PitchSidePod, and listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you can get it from. Until I see you soon, I was your boy, the HOD of the PSP, and goodbye.